Chapter 2 Wars, Revolutions, and a Pit of Snakes. In the 23rd year of the reign of Adon and Emi, there came a great wave after an earthquake that destroyed the trading port of Shar. This port was vital to the Urian economy. Many people were quick to blame the gods, but even more people blamed the Urians for not providing Shar with the defenses necessary to withstand the great wave. Most of the people that blamed the Urians were not Urians themselves, but rather vengeful, conquered peoples that desired the downfall of the Urian Empire. The local governors, who were loyal to their empresses, tried to quash the rebels. They were unsuccessful. The rebels shattered a fully trained force of 10,000 strong at the Battle of Mela in central Dolon. This incurred Emi's wrath, and she sent a squadron of immortals to crush the new rebellion. They were met with fierce resistance and ended up getting choked off and slaughtered at the Battle of Kiefer Pass under mysterious circumstances. The stories say that the brave King Idas sacrificed himself to slay the remainder of the undead army. Nobody knows for sure what the truth is or what the sacrifice was. People say they've hiked through Kiefer Pass and heard mysterious whispers and seen visions of a massive explosion and writing on the mountainside, but as it is in ancient Urian, it is indecipherable. Wars and rumors of wars rocked Dolon for the next decade. Some deity was aiding the rebels, it seemed, a deity that was angry with the Urians. The Urians had disrespected him, he told his priests. He was the one true deity, the father of all, and the Urians had spat in his face by worshipping other gods before him. He would visit the Urians with swift vengeance if they didn't turn their hearts to him. The Urians did not take kindly to being told to abandon their long-standing traditions. They stood firm in their beliefs. Things only changed when a prophet came from the east, a man of visions speaking for this new deity. His name was Len. He arrived in Shar shortly before the Great Wave destroyed the city and was driven out for his controversial views and thoughts on fate and the soul. He preached in public and wore beggar's clothes. He gained popularity among the rebels and the oppressed, a growing majority in Shar, and he led them from the city a few days before the earthquake and wave, thereby sparing them from the destruction of the city. Following the fall of Shar, he was hailed as a prophet. He began to travel around Dolon, preaching his message to ever-growing crowds of people. His message had the opposite effect of what he intended. It lit a fire in the hearts of the people, one that could only be put out by ruthless bloodshed. He did everything that he could to stop it, but once the revolutions began, there was no way to undo what he had started. While he had told the truth, the oppressed majority took it to heart a little too well, and his patron deity favored them in their conquest. Modern sources call him Benve, a new Dolani word meaning vengeance. We now believe that he did not have a proper name when he was worshipped in ancient times and was instead referred to as Majesty. It is impossible to truly discern whether or not Benve was good or evil, for there were both good and evil things that came from his period of worship. The revolutions brought about much loss of life, but they also taught the Urians a thing or two about administration, things that have found their way into modern law through word of mouth and tradition. The Urian dynasty managed to survive the rebellions, and Emi's final act before she died was to condense the scattered imperial laws into a concise, orderly text, gathering inspiration from Benve's words, the Dolon cult, and the traditions of the entire continent. Adon died shortly before Emi, and they left behind no clear heir. The heir that they chose was but 10 years old at the time and was frail, sickly, and easily disposed of. Rumor has it that the captain of the guard got rid of the child and set himself up as emperor, but he, too, disappeared. The throne fell to the most unlikely of candidates, Adon's favorite cupbearer, who was but 19 at the time. Fainadair was a gentle soul who had fallen upon hard times as a child. His mother and father died when he was 6 years old in a house fire, and he was taken in by a beautiful and kind enchantress who found him crying by the side of the road, half-starved. He would spend the next 6 years of his next 6 years learning the art of white or good magic. When he was 12, he was sent to the imperial court to get a proper education. There, he learned the arts of swordplay and metalwork. He infused the weapons he crafted with his power and would not let a person leave with a piece he had crafted unless it fit them perfectly. The other boys were jealous of his gifts and the favor he earned from the palace blacksmiths, and they conspired to get rid of him. They snuck up on him in the dead of night, catching him off guard. They threw him in a pit full of snakes and left him for dead. It was the next day that Fane got the name he is now known by, for Fane means snake in New Dolani. Adon came walking near the pit of snakes the next day because she had heard the other boys snickering about the boy they had dumped in the pit the night before. She went to see if what they were talking about was true and to give the boy a proper burial if need be. Nobody deserved to die alone in a pit of snakes. But, to her surprise, she found Fane very much alive, sleeping peacefully, surrounded by snakes that were keeping watch over him in case of further intruders. Adon called to the boy, and the snakes began to charge her. Fane woke with a start and rebuked the snakes, who listened to him. Adon was so impressed that she made him chief cupbearer, and to the end of his days he returned to the pit of snakes to feed them every morning before dawn.